Supersonic Music in Topeka with Derek Sharp, the owner of Supersonic Music. And we wanted to talk to him a little bit. He's doing the 20th anniversary of the store in September with lots of really cool deals and giveaways. You need to go check out their website as soon as you possibly can and come in the store and just be part of this. So we wanted to come in here and just talk with Derek a little bit about the store and everything going on, and 20 years, you know. That's
It was September 28th, 1998 that I signed the dotted line.
That's my sister's birthday.
So for the 20th anniversary, it was really hard for me to figure out what can we do that's going to be energetic and fun, and a flash in the pan one day, people might miss it. But, in a culture where everybody's got to have a 10-second commercial because 30 seconds is too much, how do I keep their attention for a month-long party? And I figured what we ought to do is just a little party every day for all month long. So almost every day in September, we're going to have a grand prize or two or three that's in a drawing. And then most every day will be different things in the store on sale. Like the thing we would give a grand prize on, that brand would be on sale. And some of the days we'll have factory reps come from the companies and product specialists and some demos and things like that. Some of them are just going to be here. Some are going to bring a truck full of their product. That'll be more samples available for sale at a bigger discount. It's going to be great. And like I said, every day will be something different. Someone can come in to the store to sign up for the grand prizes that they're interested in, or go to our website. Just a few rules. One of them is that if you win a grand prize, that's it, you won. So you can't win more than one. So we're encouraging you to consider, you can sign up for every day if you want, but think of it like 30 fish bowls. We're going to put your name in every day that you want. If you win something, it's like we take your name out of the rest of them so other people have a chance. Some people are signing up for one day because they want this one thing. And other people are...
I think I signed up for like 10.
Yeah, you pick the ones you want.
Yeah.
And that's cool. That's what we decided to do, and make it interesting.
Yeah. How have you arrived at all the brands that you carry now as far as guitars go?
Yeah, when I bought the store, there were 12 or 13 guitars on the wall that morning, and I went and I signed the paper at the bank, and I came with the key in my hand, and I opened the door. There were 8 guitars left. The previous owner, was shifting things, and I could not imagine, I didn't understand how it's possible that a guitar would be worth more than $800. Just in my mind, for some reason, that was a thing. But see, I grew up reading drum magazines in high school, and I knew drum stuff. And so I hired folks that knew guitar things. And for a decade or so now, I've had an amazing fellow, RJ, who's really brought this store to where it is on a national scale, to be our guitar fella, our guitar resource. And it's been, totally his call and his, props I give him for Mesa Boogie, for PRS, for Charvel. There are brands we used to carry, we don't anymore, like Takamine and Alvarez. Looking in electric guitars, those brands I mentioned, and Godin, ESP, LTD, GNL. These are professional instruments. They also make student stuff. They make stuff in the middle. We take in used. It's a way that folks can afford to buy the high-end stuff, is trade in their lower, their mid-grade stuff. We have financing that folks can go no interest payments for lots of months. Lots of ways to get at it. For brands you're asking in acoustics, we also have Seagulls, which I think are pretty cool, that are made in Canada. Faith is fairly new on the American scene. They've been here for a few years, but they're an English company that...
I know about them because of Rob Chapman. Mm-hmm. And anybody who watches this who probably knows who Rob Chapman is. But
they're all solid, so solid top and back and sides, for a whole bunch less than other brands that do that.
Yeah, and I've played a few, and they're pretty amazing guitars.
So I'm not pretending to be what I ain't. I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Okay, a guitar guy has his guitar and he needs an amp to make it loud. I didn't appreciate, when I got started 20 years ago, the importance of that amp, let alone pedals and preamps and pickups and all kinds of things, the density of the metal in the bridge, all these things contribute to the guitar's tone. I was just ignorant of that stuff. I didn't know.
Right,
Well, I hired a guy that read the guitar magazines when he was in high school that brought all that stuff in. And now we've got Black Star. We have Mesa Boogie. Got to turn around and think about this a second.
Orange, which you just recently brought
That's
in.
been about 2 years now. We've had Orange.
Yeah.
Vox is our most recent professional company we picked up. We're a Vox amp dealer. There have been more turnovers in amp companies than in the guitar brands that we carry because some of them have gone out of business or have shifted distributors, where I can't get at them anymore. Another example is there aren't that many amps called Roland anymore. The company just shifted a lot of what they did to the Boss name. New features, cheaper price, but they're a great seller for us. A lot of features in those Boss amps.
That's very interesting. I did not know that. And that explains the Boss Katana.
Yeah. The Cube was a Roland, and the Katana is a Boss.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know I've watched some videos about the Katana, and they're apparently pretty awesome. So that's cool.
In Basslandia, we got Gensler, which is the same guy that did Gens Benz. Jeff Gensler, he just came out with an acoustic amp, and so we have those. Bassland, we have sold other brands in the past that gave us some troubles with warranty issues and durability or in quality that we just, kind of quietly put them down. We're not slamming them or anything, but we'd rather bring in something that we feel more confident isn't going to crap out in a guy's gig. And so that's the brands we pick, the stuff that we think will be worth it and will stand up to the rigors of real world. It's affordable. Okay, then for our bass friends, we have Ibanez and Goldtone, G&L, and recently we picked up Warwick and Spectre, some other real nice high-end.
Yes. A lot of the metal guys, I think, like the Spectre stuff, from what I remember.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of these brands. They have different levels of quality, but some of the European stuff is just spot on. It's really nice.
Do you think that there's things that make what you offer unique? What do you feel like is your niche?
Okay, a big part of that is I've been doing this longer than some of my customers have been alive. And RJ has been doing this longer than some of our customers have been alive. There's a humility here that doesn't pound the guy over the head and talk to him from years of experience and belittle a guy that's getting into it and saying, oh, you're done because you're not up to this level. We were there. We remember. We would come down there and encourage him. Do you want us to get under you and push you up a little bit, or do you want us to just be ahead and bring you, more experiences, more information? Do you want to talk about gear? Do you want to talk about music theory? Do you want to talk about this recording or ideas about how to play live? I mean, all that stuff that we've had some experience with, we love to share. When you're sitting at your computer at 2 in the morning at something.com in your undies, pushing buy it now, the 12-year-old on the other end of that line doesn't know and doesn't care. We care. There are other things we could have chosen to do for a career, things that may have paid more or been fewer hours, but this is our passion. People talk about what's my competition. Some other store, something.com. It's remote control cars, karate, soccer, swimming class, any kind of hobby or an activity that you do after work or after school that's for fun. There just are more choices now than there used to be. And yeah, there's that other store, and yeah, there's that website. But some of my customers, they like our personality. Some people don't like us and would prefer to spend their time with other folks. And that's cool. It takes a lot of different kinds of personalities to go around. But what we offer that's different is the willingness to take that time and connect with the person. It's not just a dude that we're screwing out of rent to keep us going another meal. It's a client that we're developing so we can pay the mortgage, so we can be here another 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very different angle.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a business thing that I get in to start the plates of spinning and then flip it and sell it out to some other dude to come over, take over the business. That's not the angle. It's knowing the people, spending time with them. I don't get to go out in the community for the concerts as much as I'd like, but with our kids moving out, maybe I'll have more time and be able to. My wife and I go on dates now and then. Didn't used to have time
I don't
for
even
that.
know what that is anymore.
Yeah,
where do you see the future going? What is there any like big dream that you have, or anything that you'd really like to see happen? Any changes you'd like to make that you'd think would be really cool?
You know, when it was getting started, it was about putting more irons in the fire. And let's have a Renaissance Festival booth while we're opening an online outlet at a separate location in Lawrence for just eBay in the year 2000, and opening a Lawrence store and moving this facility to this building. A lot of new irons in the fire. Not doing that so much. Pulled some irons out of the fire. Some things didn't work, we quit. Pulled some irons out of the fire. Some goals were met, and so that thing was a chapter closed. But now the focus is stoke the flame. It's get hot, the warm irons. It's make red hot the hot irons. It's do what we're doing better. And when that mom comes in and she doesn't have that extra buck and the kid wants that thing, you know, this isn't a big, we help. You're not going to get that in that corporate environment that it's just about the bottom line. You know, I give plenty of money to the banker, and he's got plenty of marble columns and big fancy oak doors enough. He thinks it's about the money. A business person would say that running a business about profit. We got to have profit. We got to keep the lights on. But, you know, if I can't help that person help their kid, that might put that kid in a better place. And I don't say this with a lack of humility. I say this sincerely as the kind of thing I like to try to help if it's appropriate. Maybe that kid won't get swayed into some bad crowd because he has got music to wrap around now. Maybe that kid will get on an awesome path and will grow up and become a man and have kids. I mean, it's a big responsibility to consider. I may have contributed generationally to the improvement in the lives of people because I sold them a guitar string. Well, because I took time to listen to them blab, or to cry, or to need some advice, or to just spend time and connect. And I wish I had more of that to give to more people, but you know, we do what we can. And that stuff is not more dollars in the bank, profit, big fat bank account kind of way of thinking. It's long, slow, long term. I've never had a down year. I don't know if you heard about that thing that happened in 2009 or something.
2008, yeah, whatever.
There was a recession or something. All right, we chose not to participate. I brought in $50,000 less that year, gross sales, than it did the year before. It was 3% more profitable because I was more efficient. I cut out some brands that weren't performing. I stopped some processes that weren't helping the bottom line. Every year there has been growth over the previous year, a little bit. Not as much as a guy wants to see if he owns a stock and he wants a 20% return every year. That's not realistic in this industry, but a little growth every year. It's steady, and that's what we want to keep doing, is keep growing, keep influencing in a positive way, keep helping, keep contributing.
First of all, when did you start playing drums? Because all this drum stuff happened with you being a drummer, right?
It did, yeah. I started getting the idea in my head when I was in 3rd grade, which was late 70s, something like that, a few minutes ago. My dad was a high school band director, and he didn't ask if I wanted to play. He asked what I was going to play in band. And so as a 3rd grader, I'm sitting in the balcony, you know, dangling my legs over the handrail, watching the high school band perform. And between songs, now my 3rd grade brain couldn't understand what I saw. Looking back now, I understand that, like, the timpani put down the mallets and picked up the cymbal, and the snare guy went over to the triangle and all this. And then for that one song, that clarinet girl stood up and sat down. The trumpet guy got his solo. But then between songs, the little 3rd grade brain watched that all those dudes stood up and walked around. And I thought, if they get to do that in the concert, then they get to do that in practice. That means in school, in the middle of the school day, they get to stand up and walk around in class. I want to do that. And to do that, you got to be a drummer. So 4th grade, I started being a drummer.
Nice.
Real deep.
When you started drumming on kit, when did that happen in your life?
Well, I had a drum set since about 5th grade, and I was just dumb about it. There were no other drummers. I grew up in a small town that didn't have those older kids that showed us young'uns what to do. And so I didn't know a basic drum set thing in 8th grade that a lot of my students got this years before. Like, when you hit the cymbal at the end of a fill, you hit a bass drum. I didn't know that. So I would be like, I had no idea what I was doing. And then I learned this like light went on thing. You put the bass drum at the cymbal, like, oh, the clouds parted and the angels descended. That was 8th grade. So I was kind of behind what a lot of the kids know now with, how old they are.
So did you, after you had done it for a while, did you ever play with any bands or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I've been in lots of them. The most recent one was in Lawrence. We were together for 5 or 6 years. It was back when the state had, I can't remember what it's called, an arts council where they would offer different outfits that they could get a subsidy to go perform. So you could hire the Wichita Symphony, and they might be, I don't know, $10,000 or something to come to your program, and the state would pay half of it or something like that. I was in a band that did stuff like that. We weren't paid $10,000 for a gig, I tell you that, but the same program,
Yeah.
Arts Commission kind of stuff. And we got to go do some, like the main show for the little town's 4th of July somewhere up in Nebraska, and play around in town in Lawrence, and it was a lot of fun. It was ethnic world stuff that was like a folk band with frame drums and hand drums and drum set. It was a lot of fun.
What is your favorite style to play in?
I'm trying to figure out jazz and more, that's a broad thing, but more straight ahead, like bebop stuff. And then I like Latin stuff. That's another big category.
I feel myself getting into that at some point in my life. I always do that. Yeah.
That's pretty good. Little groove there. You got that.
But that's one that I like to play with a lot, hitting like the ride, hitting the cymbal and the bell in between the.
Some of these styles they just don't approach the rhythms anywhere close to how we do. There's the groove. There's the beat. But then they'll chop the beat sometimes up into different ways. For example, okay, so here's a Brazilian thing. This is called partido alto. Some dude from Rio would call that a real derogatory term, something like salsa americano. Okay, because in my mind, I'm taking the beat and chopping it into even pieces. Like, 4 hits for every beat. Okay, that's how we're trained around here. But that's too boring. They wouldn't do that. They might chop it into 4 chunks, but they're not equal. They'll have a little feel, a little give and take, a little length, a little contraction. And now I'm totally imitating this next section. I cannot do this for real because I didn't grow up there. But it might, to my ears, as I'm trying to decode it, might sound something like this. I mean, it's a taffy, it's a push and pull. If I did that right, that was supposed to stay steady. I don't even know if I did on camera. But this other stuff is like crunched up and then let to go bigger. And a dude that knows this can say, oh, the guy playing that, he grew up in the north part of Rio. Well, this guy is from the south side. I mean, it's geographical to the neighborhood. And so that partido alto, faked by an American to sound kind of more like how a Brazilian might play it, would be more like okay, the straight thing. That's fine, but it's a little stale.
Yeah.
So that's some of the kind of stuff I like to explore.
Fun. We've lost our. So do you still teach on a regular basis?
Yeah, I have students every week, and we sit in here on these cymbals and these drums because I want them to have good stuff.
And you have a lefty kit here.
Yeah. Got a
Unless
lefty
you just
student?
want to play weird open hand.
Got a lefty drum set student and got it set up for him.
Nice. How do you have time to breathe?
I come down here and I say, and that recharges.
That ride sounds amazing. Actually, both of them do, but
Yeah.
that is just velvety smooth.
Yup, that's my treasure. I went
what
to
is it?
Pistoia, which is a village in Italy, and then went into the little, like, what's smaller than a village, a hamlet, up north of that,
I've been to it.
called San Quirico, and met up with Roberto Spizzichino, one of the world's best cymbalsmiths, who died about a year after I was there. That was in 2010. And I went looking for that sound, because I had a couple of cymbals that sounded good together, and then another one that sounded good, it just didn't blend.
Yeah.
And I wanted this certain sound I had in my ear, and long story made short, I went there and I found it.
Very, very cool.
Nobody
Is
today makes cymbals.
Is that a genuinely old Ludwig kit?
Yeah, this is from 1970.
Cool.
And these cymbals are Turkish, vintage Istanbul, Kazolgens. This Roberto Spizzichino fits in real nicely. All the cymbals in that set are Spizzichinos.
Very cool.
And not a lot of teachers are going to let their kids pound on stuff like this, because one of these cymbals costs more than most drum sets.
Yeah.
But if they want to learn this instrument, I've been dating this girl for years, getting to know her,
Yeah.
because she's got 20 sounds in her. This is not on or off, or bell and body. There are many, many sounds that you pull out of this by how you hold your stick. Here's just one little example. I'm just going to change how I hold my stick. I'm going to try to hit the same way in the same place. Let's say 4 hits each, maybe 3 different sounds. What I was trying to do is dial in more and more of the actual attack.
Yeah.
The tone's about the same from where I hit it, but the click changed. So 2 of each.
That cymbal sounds amazing. The ride cymbal is probably my personal favorite cymbal on a kit. Because if you get the right one, you can crash on it a little bit, you can ride on it.
This one is magic, okay? A lot of cymbals have this thing I call the dumb spot. So you got your bell, you come down, you got your body of the cymbal, it's right in here. But this area right here, on a lot of cymbals, just try it. It doesn't...
It sounds like nothing interesting.
like mom's or grandma's mantle clock chime, this gongy, boingy thing. This cymbal is different. So I've got a couple of ways to crash this ride. I can hit the edge. I can shank it, kind of a la Steve Gadd. It's a different attack, but the same kind of texture. But on this cymbal, I just move. I just hold my grip in the same place and move where I hit it. I hit this spot and it doesn't start sounding like a chime. This one does a little more.
Yeah.
Hear that? A little more for whom the bell tolls. This one, it's a crash. It's very hard to find. Actually, the only cymbals that I know of consistently produced that do that are the Bosphorus Master Vintage.
So I guess the first thing that I want to ask you about drums is, how did you get started building drums?
Well, before I started building drums, I was familiar with working on them. And in fact, my only 2 jobs as a senior in high school is that I taught drum lessons, and I would go to like pawn shops and flea markets and things like that and buy used drums, take them apart, clean them up, put them back together, sell them out of the paper. We had this thing called the classified ads, newspapers. Yeah,
I'm old enough to remember that.
Long ago, yeah. And so I didn't ever build them at that stage, but I kind of knew how they worked. And then worked at the store, and then I bought the store. I had a customer who had some drums, some custom drums, and he wanted an add-on. And he became a pretty good customer. He went to the place where he had his drums built and asked him for another one, and here's your deposit, and 6 months later was the drum, and we lost your deposit, and a year goes by, and he's just really frustrated. He had no drum. And so he came to me and said, man, I'm really frustrated. I wish we could have like their drum building in your service. Like, I just got done buying this business. I don't have extra money to start a new enterprise I've never built before. I blabbed like that for a while, and he came back a couple of weeks later. He put $3,500 on the table and said, I get the first one. So I guess I'm going to be building drums. And
That's pretty cool.
I took about 9 months or so, and I actually built 2 at the same time. Just took notes and experimented, and got done with them, and gave him his drum set.
So what was the process like when you when you got to the point where you were going to have to build a drum set? I mean, obviously you had there was tools that you probably didn't have, I would assume, and
there was a lot of figuring it out. There were no blogs, there were no videos or books or do-it-yourself manuals or anything. And I went real slow. I'm sure I just reinvented the wheel. There's probably some resource out there I didn't know about, but I'm just lining stuff up and saying, well, how can I put this place on this tube of wood? How do I mark this? And just experimented over the years with building tools to build the drums, and engaged a machinist to make us some jigs, and designed some of my own jigs out of wood and metal to line things up, and just got better at it, and better tools. As I did it more, I could afford more precise tools. So the first year stuff was still pro quality, but
it took you.
It's better now.
Yeah. One question that may or may not interest anybody else, but I don't care, is drums are made of plies of wood. When you are building one of these kits, are you physically taking each different wood that makes up the plies and conjoining 7 plies or however many there are for a specific drum?
That's a good question. I would have to have trucks that beep when they back up, and rent a part of town that's got different zoning, industrial park action to do that kind of stuff. I don't have the tools or the facility or the equipment or the money to go buy all that to do that.
Okay.
And that is a full-time business.
Right.
There are a very few in the world who do that. And I found a few, and I commissioned them because they've been doing it since longer than I've been alive.
Right. Yeah.
And so they've got to
you
figure
can get
out
what you want.
I say, make it this way, I don't want this angle, I want this size, I want this kind of wood, this kind of dimension, and they have millions of dollars of tools to do that, and so I commission that part. It's kind of like, we all sort of get it, that Ford car is brand new and it says Michelin right on the tire, or Goodyear or whatever.
Yeah.
Ford doesn't make tires.
Right.
Doesn't make it not a Ford.
Right.
They told Michelin or Goodyear, whoever, I want the tire to have these specs and be this size and this feature and whatnot. So it's the Ford tire.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's the same idea.
There's hardware options, there's all sorts of things. Do you make some of it and get some of the other pieces based on what somebody's asking for? Do you have anything machined for you?
Yeah,
Metal
good
ones,
question.
like lugs and...
Let the cat out of the bag. It's no surprise because we're not going to do it. I wanted to produce a 100% made in USA drum set. Couldn't do it. I believe it was 1973, maybe 76 or something like that, that the last American company that made tension rods, the little threaded bolts with the square heads, stopped making them in America. And recently, about 4 years ago, somebody started machining them again out of a really high-grade alloy of aluminum, and another version, like $10 a piece for these little screws, out of titanium. And I'm like, that was the missing part. Now maybe I could make a 100% made in USA drum set. I get the shells, the drum heads are Evans or Remo or Aquarian. Those are 3 American companies, and the list goes on of different components. Can I find someone out there that could make a spur, a floor tom leg bracket? You know, some of these specific parts that are only drum industry stuff, most of it is cast in Taiwan. Some of the cheaper stuff is made in China. I consider them 2 different things. And aside about that, made in Taiwan, not really necessarily a bad thing at all.
Yeah, and that's something I know. Maybe some people out there don't know, but I mean, as far as I know, and as far as anybody should know, is it's all what the person who's paying for them to make it asks for. Even if it says made in China, that doesn't mean it's bad.
It's also that guy in that facility in Taiwan that's been chrome plating that tube that becomes a cymbal stand, has been working in chrome in that building for 40 years.
Yeah.
And that guy in China, not to disparage him, just telling you, the reality is he was on a train 1,000 miles ago to come to the big city 2 years ago to work in the factory to push the green button to drop chrome. He doesn't know it as well as the guy that's been doing it for about as long as I've been alive, the chrome process, for example. And that to me is an example of how made in Taiwan is different than made in China, mainland China. Anyway, so I'm trying to come across folks in America that make these things, and had a guy lined up and placed my order, and after 18 or 20 years of business, he just went out of business. And I found another guy that could make parts that are very, very hard to make, and it's a startup. It's been 4 or 5 years. He's still starting up. It's at my fingertips, but I'm not there. So
Yeah.
I have commissioned a local machinist to make some parts that are sort of unique. They're definitely unique to me. And I have a kit that we made that went on tour with Queen's show that was really cool. It's on a boat, a ship, whatever you call it, a cruise liner now. Playing that same show, they bought a license to play it.
Cool.
And that machinist made a few, just stopped. And it's like, okay, I'm depending too much on other people to do stuff I can't do. I need to stick with the people that will do it to be consistent. So 5 years from now, I can say, oh yeah, I've got that replacement part if you dropped your drum.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. So after you built those first kits, what made you think, I want to do more of this?
Oh man, that's a good question, because I was just nervous as all get out that it's like, cross your fingers, I got lucky, it sounded good. Let's do it again and just see if it does. And it did. And then, okay, let's do it again. And I don't know what, magic recipe has to come together. It's not just the parts. It's the process and the angle of the cut and the heads and the tuning, and it all goes together. It's not just an ingredient list. Any one of them you miss, and it doesn't cook right. It's like baking or something. Well, after about 5 years of being nervous, will it come out? And every time it came out, I thought, I guess that's consistency. Check that box. We're okay. And I kind of relaxed. And about the 6th year, it's like, I bet it's going to sound this way I think it will. And I would make it, and it did.
Yeah.
And that's when it got real comfortable. It was the 8th year of business that the first time something happened that was really weird. Somebody bought a drum set, and I didn't know who. Every time before that, I had been in a conversation, or I'd been commissioned to build something specific. It took 8 years for a stranger to walk in. See, I have a drum store and a drum and guitar store, and a drum company that we sell the drums in the drum and guitar store. So I wasn't there one day when someone walked in and bought it, and that was 8 years into drum building that I didn't meet the person.
Wow. Did you find them afterwards?
Never met her.
Wow.
Still haven't.
Wow.
No.
That's crazy. If you're out there and you're watching this, that was going to lead me into another question, which I've already forgotten. Oh, so I suppose this is a question I can ask you anywhere, whether we do it down here or not. Supersonic was already an entity?
Let me go you through the timeline.
Yeah.
I worked with another store in Kansas City that now is closed, and sold stuff out of my house and bought some parts from them. And when I was in college in Topeka, I was still selling stuff out of the newspaper. And they said, here, take all this stuff and then sell it and then pay us. And that was, I don't know, like 93 or something, 94. I'm like, okay. And I took them, and Christmas, we sold some drum sets. I paid them. And they said, why don't you find us a place? They provided some stuff and some money, and I provided some locale and some availability. And together we made a store. That was in 1995, around November or so. And after a couple of months, through that Christmas season, it was done well enough that I helped them find a building that was rented to move the store over on 6th Street on West 6th. And it was there for about 4 years or so. A couple of years into that, I bought it and then moved to this location in the year 2000, which was the same year that I started making drums, which was the same year we opened a booth at the Renaissance Festival in Kansas City, which was the same year that I bought their second location and changed its name to Supersonic Music in Lawrence. The year 2000 was a busy year.
Yeah. See, and I'm not from here, so I would have never known the store as anything else, because I've been here since 2006, so, and you've been in this building ever since
2000.
I've been here, so I've never known you as anything else.
Well, Supersonic Music, Supersonic is an anagram of percussion. It's all the same letters, straight up.
It doesn't surprise me that you would name your store something in that way.
I want to thank everybody who has chosen Supersonic to be a part of that in your lives, for making it possible for us to be here. It's because of you. It's not we, us, what we did. It's you choosing to spend dollars here that let us be good stewards. We try to be good stewards of that money to make the place more attractive and more interesting, to be better, to serve you better, so you'll come back. And so it's a cycle. So I want to thank you for choosing to make it possible that Supersonic Music has a 20th anniversary.
I feel like I should clap for that.